Actually a nice guy. I think he's pretty strong. I love his playstyle.
He's, I say, the most fun to go against because he plays aggressive as well. Not many people play aggressive against me specifically. So.
But you know, he gets soloed a lot.
I think every other ADC at LAN will just mop him.
Fun story, we Anhur joust on the regular. I think our record in the last week before this LAN, I'm 7-0 against him.
Didn't really get to face him last time when we were in a LAN. So I'm really looking forward to face him this time. He's a really good ADC, obviously.
hi-rez is our ADC and captain. I think he's a great captain, and I think he's going to really help us win tomorrow.
He's my laning partner, so I trust him, I believe in him, and I know he can solo any of the other ADCs, especially trans.
A lot of respect there for Eager and the boys, especially for Cougar. Joining me for this matchup is going to be Eager up against the boys of Retribution here. And we're going to have Aggro with me. How you doing, Aggro?
Hi.
You
Glad
good?
to be here. Yeah.
You excited?
Really excited.
It's nice to be at LAN, right?
Yeah. I mean,
anyway, and more importantly, let's go into players that made LAN, first of all. We'll come back to you, Aggro, don't worry.
About
Watson,
6 seconds.
A lot of things to focus on to Watson here this game. He's got a big performance to put up. Can he do it?
I mean, he's one of the premier European players. Eager just went up against Rapio, the other premier European player, and did just fine. So we'll see how they can handle this one.
And Watson, he's had a good performance so far in the first set, but they didn't find wins. They need wins this one.
Have to. Eager's going to need just one win. Just one win to advance to the finals. So, but Retribution needs to stop them here.
He's a beast of a player when he wants to be.
He's a really nice guy and a really good solo laner as well.
People are saying he's the best EU solo laner.
I guess he's the Wolves of EU. So everybody's hyped to see Wolves versus Watson.
Watson, like I said, is the best solo laner in EU. And hopefully we will see that he is the best solo laner in the world.
And there you see it. Overall, for the side of Watson, a few little things said about him positively. What do you think about this matchup, though, overall, Aggro? Eager versus, the boys of Retribution. We saw Retribution go down 2-0 to rival early on, and Eager not looking too bad.
No, and Dewars is someone who's used to these tough matchups in solo lane, right?
Point.
He goes up against Wolves constantly. He goes up against Uzi constantly, these top-level solo laners. And Watson, there are some good solo laners in Europe. Gnome, really good player. But there's not that abundance of good players, good solo players, excuse me, in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see. He did pretty well against Wolves. Yeah, did they play already?
Against Wolves, most wanted?
No, that's later. That's tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's
look at
tonight.
you. Look at you. You're going to say he's going to play well against Wolves later? You predicting
He
that
told
already?
me that he's got $20 on soloing him.
Really? $20?
$20. He said he's going to stay in lane forever, and he told his team not let anyone come over because he wants to solo him.
So we're getting a little bit deeper in the day now, Aggro, as well. And when we get deeper in the days at these lands, picks and bans kind of change things up. We've seen things like Fafnir getting through. Last set, we saw Nemesis and Kuang get through. What are your predictions here?
I would not like to see Retribution let Soul get through for Eager. Delta Marine has just been doing so much work on Soul, there's no reason to give it to him. It's just one of his most comfortable gods, and he plays it really well.
And you think Soul's that important right now?
It's not necessarily that Soul's that important, it's that comfort picks are that important at LAN, and that is clearly a comfort pick for Delta Marine, topping the damage charge the last 2 games against Rival.
Well, both teams taking a long, hard look at these as well. Retribution will be the first pick, first ban, so they get the opportunity of something that's OP, but nowadays, generally there's enough OP things for the counter picks too.
No doubt. There's a lot of bans a lot of possible bans, I should say. Guan Yu going away for Eager, that's a classic, console ban, but I'd like to see Retribution go for the Kuang. That's a god that Proxy is very, very comfortable on. Eager let Rival have it last game. It didn't work out for Rival, but Rapio had a great game, so we'll see if they're able to get it here.
It's a very good point as well, because everyone was talking down Proxy, thinking he may have some issues with his hands, but Kuang will slip through with the Susano ban here.
Really surprised to see that Susano ban. Proxy did have 1 or 2 games on Susano, I believe, during the regular season for SCL, but really known for the Kuang.
Now, however, we saw Jelly just in the last set as well pick up the Sylvanus to go against the Kuang. You were telling me the whole story of Jelly and the Sylvanus.
They can thank us for that, right? We scrim Eager constantly. We play a lot of Kuang, and so he kind of found the counter, at least their perfect counter, in the form of Sylvanus. He just baits himself perfectly. The wisps and dot off the ultimate make it impossible for Kuang to stealth away, and it's really hard to execute him. He runs meditation as well. So I'm interested to see if Retribution watched that last game.
That's true.
And saw if they should have to ban it here if Eager doesn't select it third. Now,
That's what I'm going to say. Should they be selecting it third here to make sure they get it, or do they want to maybe draw the Sylvanus ban here?
Because they are on that second side, on that Chaos side, they can ban away Odin right away. It's not like Retribution would get a counter pick opportunity, so that's like the big one that you have to worry about.
Really good call,
right?
actually. I didn't even think about the Odin versus Sylvanus matchup. That's not a fun one.
No, not at all. And Retribution is known to run that Odin. Proxy played it earlier today in the jungle. He's got the Ao Kuang now, but
Even
Watson can play it. The support player can as well. So interesting to see if Eager's going to go for it here. I wouldn't mind it because you can ban away that Odin.
Good point. Apollo locked in for Retribution here. Bit of EU jank coming out because we've seen Apollo a lot today. Headhunter's been running it a lot, and now Retribution taking up the reins, and they're going to go for the double hunters here.
Jeron really known as the premier Apollo player in EU, right? So whenever Headhunter picked it, he had a lot to prove because he's not like the Apollo player in Europe, but he showed that he can really play it well, always timing those ultimates really, really well. So let's see if Jeron can live up to what Headhunter set the standard for.
Well, on the screen right now is Mifflin, and he is very mouthy, is the word I'm looking for. He will give a lot of pop-offs in the game. You can hear him across the building when his team is doing well.
He's a gem, isn't he?
He's great. I love him.
He's just like
He's got one of the best profile pictures I've ever seen.
I don't have words to describe Mifflin, you know what I mean? But he's fun, you know?
He is.
When you're playing against him, you can get a little frustrated with that popping off, but afterwards it's like, you know what? That's part of the fun. I like when players do that.
They play with a lot of heart, the Eager boys, though, and that sometimes can turn against them because when you play with heart and you lose, you get a bit disheartened sometimes.
On one hand, yes, but on the other hand, they're so experienced. They're all tenured players. Not all of them on Xbox necessarily, but Delta Marine and Mifflin, a lot of PC experience as well. They're one of the teams that can lose early game, and let's be real, they lose early game a lot. It's what they do. They're totally comfortable from playing from behind. Like they joke around that a 3K gold deficit is an Eager lead.
Okay.
That's what they call their Eager lead.
That makes sense. Well, Holy gets banned out by Retribution here, as we saw Team Eager banned away Bologna. Sylvanus didn't get picked up by Eager just yet. It was the Nemesis, but will Retribution look at banning it?
They could, but I think that they're probably more looking towards the support lane, right? Like, are they going to go for that Sylvanus ban? Possibly, but I like the bans coming from Eager. They've clearly done their homework on Watson. Tyr and Bologna, two of his favorite gods. His top 3 gods that he played this season, Ravana, Tyr, Bologna, all off the table.
Look at you doing your research. You didn't even make Glan. Did you research this whole way?
Okay, so Freya ban for Retribution. Moving on from me not making
this, we said this before we even got on cast as well. Like, you got the easy riding with F-Dot, and now you're here for the whole train with me. It's so exciting.
I really didn't think we'd be on 2 not making land references through picks and bans, but you know, there's always a surprise.
And you know what? If it's a 50-minute game, we may get into double figures.
I wouldn't be
you
surprised.
Never know. It is a Sylvanus. Hey, let's go back to the matchup.
So that's Retribution was in a tough spot there because ManLikeJeron had such a great Freya game earlier, right? So EU clearly doesn't like to play against Freya. We saw Rival ban it in the first 2 bans, the last set against them. So it's either like, do we ban the Freya or do we ban the Sylvanus? Now, Hu Yi, not really an ManLikeJeron god, not a god that he plays a lot of. He'd much rather play Anhur, Ram, Freya, that sort of stuff. So they may have been able to ban both, but Hu Yi is just like, you assume everyone can play a god of that strength. Not that ManLikeJeron can't, but it's not his like comfort pick.
We see the Sobek pick for Retribution here, which kind of dissuades me from seeing the Odin. I don't think we're going to see, for the most part, that Odin locked in unless it's going to be Osiris.
Which is kind of surprising that they're going with the Sobek because the Odin still open, number 1, and number 2, also really, really good against Nemesis.
So, you mean Sobek's really bad against Nemesis, right?
No, I was saying that I'm surprised they didn't go with Odin because Odin is good against both Sylvanus and Nemesis.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Sobek not great against Nemesis either. So
exactly.
It's like a twofold sort of thing, and there's the Anhur that ManLikeJeron likes to play.
Yeah, the Anhur to round things off. And to be fair, displacement, very important to deal with an Osiris. Being able to push him away with knockups, knockbacks. Vulcan's very good for that. Anhur with those impales too. That's why you're seeing that locked in there.
Now, Osiris is a god that I don't think any NA solo players really play him at all. Watson is a premier Osiris player, and that's a counter to Sylvanus that maybe Eager hadn't thought of, right? The anti-healing on the ultimate is really strong. Plus, he doesn't have any way to get away from that tether, basically guaranteeing the stun. So I'd like to see Watson make some earlier rotations than he's used to. He likes to sit in lane a lot more than other solo laners. So I'd like to see him make some early rotations to help out with that jelly.
It's very funny with this one as well when I'm looking at it because I think we came into this match with all these superstars, and to be fair, there are 2 players on one player on each team that generally gets overlooked is the support players, but their matchup alone, Sobek versus Sylvanus with the comps they're against, is highly interesting. Sylvanus can deal with Ao Kuang. However, if Sobek finds a pluck on Sylvanus, Sylvanus dies, and the same if Sobek misses.
Sometimes, yes, but if he plucks Sylvanus into the team and they group, that's a big Sylvanus ult. You know what I mean? If you can get a 4-man Sylvanus ult off and then meditation yourself and get to like one member of your team and then pop the wisps, even if you die, they're going to have to contribute. They're going to have to push way too much into you to secure that kill. So Sobek has to be careful with that pluck, making sure that he does it at the opportune time.
Well, no invades coming out here at the start. Both of the junglers starting at their speed buff. We've got wall coverage on the left-hand side from Eager here at the beginning. Now, one thing I do note is Anhur. Kuga playing the Anhur one more time has gone once again for the rush of the Iqbal. We talked about this off air, Grow.
It's the joust build, right? It's the joust build. You want to just fight in lane, and maybe those on-her jousts that Mifflin was referencing has kind of influenced him. But yeah, he really likes his Itch of All Rush, obviously trading away some early movement speed and rotation ability for that attack speed and boxing potential.
And then trading that out as well, I guess an Apollo who could use that global rotation could hurt more as well if they do go for what we saw at Arrival when Headhunter was playing, those early rotations to mid lane for those ganks. It could be a detriment.
Very strong. Very, very strong for the Apollo. But sometimes you also just want to keep that on her in lane, right? Because if he does finish those boots and is able to start to rotate in that early to mid game, he can impact fights much, much more heavily than an Apollo can. So sometimes it's like almost like a solo lane matchup where say you're Amaterasu against a Ravana and he's going to do way more in team fights than you are early. You just stay in your lane to force him to stay. You just want to keep him out of the fight.
So overall, when you actually look through these two team comps that we've seen, who have you got money on here?
I just feel like Eager is the more experienced and stronger team, but the team comp as well, they got the Sylvanus against the Kuang, they got Delta Marine on his Comfort Soul, they got Anhur on Cougar, another comfort pick. They just have so many comfort picks and the big counter pick that they like, the Sylvanus into the Kuang.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting one between these two teams. Quick pause coming out. There's no technical issues. Don't worry about that. They're not happening anymore. But yeah, we've got a quick pause from these two teams as they're going into it. And it's very important because all teams still involved as well. Two teams still on 4 points right now. Doesn't give them qualification. Retribution could 2-0-2-0 both the NA teams and go through. However, Eager here, well, they're only looking for one win.
They only need one win. Rival was just one win short, but they are done for the day, so they need some help to get in.
Yep.
So it'll be an interesting set. Retribution, like you said, really has a lot riding on this game. Eager only need to find one. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe if they push hard for that win in game one, what would happen in game two, but they've got to go through game one, of course, first.
Of course. So go to the dual lane one more time. Let's just go over dual. We've got Apollo, and alongside him, we're going to see the Sobek. And then Sylvanus as well. Going to be paired with the Anhur. Who's to get lane dominance there?
Probably the Anhur and Sylvanus, right? The AoE auto attacks and just the overall push from Anhur is pretty decent early. But if they get a little bit too aggressive, maybe step up without clearing that minion wave fully. A Sobek pluck, he does have the Weakening Curse as his relic, and Jelly does not have the sprint available. So that's the guaranteed slow. He does have the meditation, but if you get Weakening Curse, that meditation is useless. So Jelly has to be careful, but they should be able to win that.
But also with that push power, they may get in a bit of trouble with the Kuang rotations as well. Even though, you know, Sylvanus, we said, is pretty good against Kuang, they could still rotate and look for picks because of it.
Very true, but most Kuang players, as soon as they hit level 5, they're looking towards that solo lane. The solo laner's never going to have purification.
Actually, you mentioned this because you saw in the last set that we were watching, where Rapio was on the Kuang looking for a gank and solo, and it was on Dwurst, and you're like, he's so used to this.
Like a clock. As soon as you hit 5, you go to the solo lane as Kuang, because it should be a free kill most of the time, right? They're not tanky enough to really withstand getting ulted by your solo laner and Kuang, so that solo laner really, really has to be careful. And Dwurst is usually used to playing against the Kuang. Like I said, they get a decent amount of practice against it. However, he was first blooded in the last game.
Really, really good. Interesting games going on through the whole day. This is match 5. There's another match after this one, which will be Retribution versus Most Wanted. Even if one of these two teams do come out on top, only one of them will go through right now, guaranteed if Eager win. However, it doesn't mean that the whole group is over.
No, not at all. So that last set is going to be really exciting as well. I can't wait to watch Wolves versus Watson. It's going to be dope.
So we do have the double Hunter composition coming out from Retribution here. So we've got Neith with that World Weaver in mid lane. How do you feel about Neith in the mid lane?
I think she's pretty strong. These Europeans especially really like to run it. Elexum is known for playing his Neith in the middle lane. And it just synergizes so well with Kuang because you can just root them in place and then they just get pounded by the dragons coming from the auto attack. So without that DR off a Sobek pluck, something like that, you stand in place for a long, long time.
Well, the solo lane is going to duel at it all day, and I believe you heard about a bet that was going on in the solo lane, right? You mentioned it. It was $20 on Watson.
I'm pretty sure that that's against Wolves. I don't know if he did one against Dwurst. Right,
wow.
I'm pretty sure that's for the next match.
Over to the left-hand side. Bit of pressure here. Very good puck. Going to force the purification out of Cougar, but now Sobek's in trouble. There's archers involved there too, and those wisps will do a lot, but they're not going to find enough in-hands to secure the kill. The heal comes through.
Excellent body blocks there by Jeron, not letting his support die. playing a little bit of support for the support, which is always appreciated by those players.
A lot of pressure in mid lane there, both level 5 for both teams there, but Neith and the Kuang getting up on top early on. Eager though, controlling.
prOxyQQ actually kind of positioned himself to get plucked there, ready to press that purification and just ready to stand still, and then Jelly immediately roots Sylvanus, pulls him backwards farther away from the tower. If Jelly was actually a little bit farther back, it might have been a kill because he could have pulled from such a longer distance.
That's true.
But a great job by prOxyQQ. He was there intentionally.
Yeah, it's a nice little idea from him, but his purification's on cooldown now, and if Kuang recognizes that, Proxy makes a rotation, they could look for something, but it's not going to be as easy as all that.
No doubt. These European Apollo players also seem to really be a fan of ulting aggressively, even in like a 1v1 scenario. They get you to trade out, they get you to poke, and then they just go up in the air and dunk down on you. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kuang start to make the rotation. Jeron should go right up into the chariot and dunk down on him.
Well, first couple of minutes, no real shenanigans here. Speed buff picked up by Proxy there. He's heading over to the blue buff already. Meanwhile, we don't actually see the jungler rotating from Eager here. You can see Mifflin just sat in mid lane farming up, still speed and blue available.
Electing to get that extra mid wave instead of going for the buffs like Proxy, and this is going to allow Delta Marine to help him out. And you see a Boar invade on the left side as a product of that pressure coming from Eager. Oh,
wow.
Apollo's in the air?
I think he was all in to try and crash down somewhere, see if they could actually catch him, get some damage off with the Neith, but instead, he'll rotate to the red buff and soak the experience there between him and his mid laner Elexum as Proxy continues farming up the mid wave.
A little bit awkward now because they left that blue buff on the right-hand side, did Eager. They elected to go for those right-hand mid-harpies instead, so now Dwarf's blue is going to be up a little bit longer, and he's either going to have to solo it or Mifflin's going to have to make an awkward rotation to that right side.
So looking at composition-wise as well here, Aggro, I feel like Eager's on a bit of a clock. Do you, in terms of like their builds overall? Hold that thought. Backflip comes out from Elexum here. Under pressure already. Sanctuary used and still surrounded by Mifflin. The Unravel will give him a bit of a heal, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. No, it will. Mifflin missing those enhance.
Perfect Sanctuary there. Immunes the entire Desert's Fury, and Watson's made the rotation into the middle lane. Misses the ultimate. Soul drops a Supernova, and that's going to be enough to kill Proxy. The World Weaver blocked by Mifflin. Just a bit. Watson bit off a little bit more than he could chew.
He did. He just dived in a bit too much against too many people there overall. And Watson, well, he survives it, but poor Proxy, he does not overall. Kuga, a little off the mark, but look at Kuga's rotations there. We were mentioning he started without boots, but he still managed to get to that mid lane fight before the Apollo.
Well, the Apollo burned that ultimate, right? And Apollo hasn't backed either, so he's only got boots 1. It's really not that much more movement speed. It's only 3% movement speed difference. So Anhur really okay with sitting in this left lane and just farming up until he gets those boots done.
Well, that rotation means Jeron will hit level 7 a little bit quicker, although we will see Kuga catch him up immediately after that wave is cleared out as well. Just a 1 kill advantage, and guess what? He went to Delta Marine, who had such a good game last set.
Just baited perfectly, dropped the Supernova on himself just as he was getting into this Apparate, so you're going to get pounded by that ultimate, and you can't hit him at all. So a really nice play by him there. And so we just picked up the speed buff on the blue buff for Eager on the right side, right? That is so much more delayed, and this allows Dwarfs to have that mana regen and cooldown reduction going into the spawn of Retribution's right side buffs, so it's a little bit more advantageous for him for the invade.
It's a very interesting one too, because like you're gonna have this trade-off in the solo lane where one has blue, one doesn't, then one has blue, then the other one doesn't. So it's about probably timing up for the best opportunities.
Yeah, and it allows Watson, if he identifies that, to go and make that invade if Robin makes a rotation that isn't going to be great, or he just pokes him out of lane, something along those lines.
Talking about rotations, prOxyQQ having a little look over here. Dwarfs a little bit lower mana, but as we said, has that blue buff and very experienced with ganks from the jungle.
I'm surprised that Neith is not charging the ultimate looking at that right-hand side. That's basically a guaranteed kill. I would like to see Proxy almost go up right here to where you'd be proxy farming, if you will, right by the tier 2 tower. Because you know that's where Dwarfs is going to run whenever he sees that World Weaver ultimate. Watson can dunk down and he'll have nowhere to go.
Well, Proxy returns to mid, soaks the experience, now going to pick up his speed buff as well. And the blue buff just spawns for Retribution again, so power play Retribution's favor again.
And that's the main power of Neith middle without Kuang, is that you can camp solo lane from middle lane.
Oh, Kuga, happy to take a fight, but I don't think he realizes right behind him is Awe. And there's a World Weaver coming through as well. He'll get absorbed by the Desert Fury, though, and not stunned. But the minion blocks the pluck, and Awe has to watch his kill go away.
Yo, shout-outs to the melee minion, Cougar.
Nobody's archers that get all the credit, right?
No,
Archer
that melee minion was like right up in there, man.
He was like, nah, bro, nah. My hunt is staying alive this time around.
I don't know if I was supposed to say this, but I saw Coog slip that minion $20 for the game.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cooper?
Only 20? These minions are pretty cheap, you know.
I mean, they don't get a lot of love. They're just happy to get any sort of, any sort of recognition.
They basically run into towers and die. That's their job.
Or they run into towers and help their big god friends, take them down.
Their big god friends take them down.
Yeah.
Was that the best thing you could think of that aggro?
That's all I got.
Come on.
Look, this is my second cast, Hindu. I'm really trying
Listen,
here.
we're warming you up. Talking about warming you up, Proxy on the left-hand side. Now looking at Cougar again. And he was going aggressive and gets baited into a terrible fight. And he gets picked up the first kill for Retribution.
Something we were talking about before watching that last game is that sometimes Cougar can get a little bit too ready to box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes he wants to take that fight a little bit too much, and that's a prime example right there. Just wanting to go up and step up without that purification available, and it's a free gank.
Over to the solo lane, and it's Dwist versus Watson, but that Tether's still going to hit after the overhead kick. But missed time there from Dwist, but he's not too worried. He's still robbing. He gets those shields, but Watson will give as good as he gets.
Just a really even matchup. Two gods that can fight really, really well in lane. Solid sustain using the Death Toll as well, or the shields in Robin's case. So, and like I said, I'm interested to see how this plays out in the team fights because Osiris is not a god that a lot of NA teams see often.
And when we talk about the team fights with the Osiris coming into this one as well, I'm looking at the composition, and I don't think Sol's going to be too worried about him so much, but maybe Anhur Sylvanus for sure.
If I were the Sylvanus, I would be the most worried, I think, about this Osiris. And if I'm Watson, I'm saying I don't care who I'm on for the majority of the fight, but as soon as it's the right time, I'm turning using my ultimate on Jelly, and then I can go back onto the carries.
Well, look at this. Eager going to pull the Gold Fury very early. They're looking for the option to take this one. Nobody recognizes it from Retribution yet because Or's looking for a sneaky gank on Cougar. That's a wall. Oh, there's no one there. There's no one there.
They don't know. That's two ultimates burned, but that's going to be totally worth as Eager's going to sneak a Gold Fury. Jeron probably heard the ultimates going off and was like, oh, man.
Now, obviously, you said actual objective control from Eager is just so strong. They're so good at realizing opportunities and making the most of them.
Very strong. Not only because they can kind of bait them around. They're really good at, are we doing this or not? Are we baiting this or are we not? They know the exact time to commit. They weren't ready to commit right away.
Talking about committing. They're trying to commit onto Watson here. He's already used Lord of the Afterlife. Mifflin trying to give chase, but with 3 members here from Retribution 2 and a fight going on in 2 different directions. The boys of Eager are forced back a little bit. World Weaver channeled, but we saw the teleport come back out as well from Dwist. This fight's still going.
Little bit of miscommunication. prOxyQQ actually backed up, and now he's going to have to use the purification. But a great pull by Jelly and an ultimate onto Awe. He's going to fall here. That's Jelly. That's just Jelly Sylvanus.
The pull just came out of nowhere and saved the day. But that's what we talk about the Sobek matchup. If Sobek misses the pluck, it could be a different tale. Man fight over in the duo lane though. And this time around, Jeron's happy to take it. And Cougar's like, well, I got beat down last time, but this time I know you've not got backup, but I've not got the health for it.
Jeron wants to push this. He should have his passive up soon. Still has So Beautiful available, and that'll do a good chunk of Anhur's health. Cougar has to be careful here without the impale.
Yeah, got to be careful with that Altrocity as well, because once he gets that and the So Beautiful, it could really put a lot of pressure on. But the rotation's here, and Jeron may not realize it just yet. Now he does, as it comes into the mini-map for him, so he gets away in time.
Jelly wanted that raw pull, man. Sometimes you can just like look at a character and be like, that guy wants this bad. It's like, you can't see their facial expressions, but you can see its facial expression.
Can you imagine if you can pull with Sylvanus and then blink backwards? Can you imagine that? just before it connects, right? And you pull him through walls and stuff.
Can't you do that with Hercules?
You can, on the 2. Yes, that's confirmed. Block in the jungle from or onto Jelly, and Jelly getting hit down by Proxy. Is the meditate going to come through in time? You know what? It's not even needed because Jeron cleans it up.
He actually used it. He actually did use the meditation there, so that's an extra cooldown that Jelly had to waste just a little bit too far forward and got punished for it.
And it's only a kill. Nothing's really going to come from that. There's no buffs for them to really invade in the jungle. The Gold Fury's already down. It's very, very high paced though. He started off slowish in terms of kills, but I think he's going to catch up just to like every other game.
It is going to catch up, and this is the point in the game where Retribution's composition starts to get a little bit stronger, right? Neith has the Transcendence finished, going to have her boots finished soon. Apollo's starting to actually hit a little bit harder, still not at his prime yet. prOxyQQ getting that second item online, has the Polynomicon finished, working on the Obsidian, what's likely to be an Obsidian Shard. This is where this later game team comp for Retribution starts being able to pick more fights.
And I was going to say, I was going to bring it up before we had a little bit of action earlier on for the First Blood, but the composition as this goes on, I started to favor Retribution just because they've got a bit of a later game comp here.
No doubt. Anytime you have 2 hunters, you're going to be playing somewhat for the late game, even if one of them is Neith. But whenever one of them is Neith, you kind of want to play for that like 25-minute mark. That's when Neith is hitting her hardest. But you still have Apollo, one of the best late game hunters, and you have Kuang, who can just absolutely decimate. I mean, it's just insane. You're just like standing there and you're like, okay, I'm going to walk to this team fight. oh wait, Kuang was on my back harpies waiting for me, and now I'm dead.
Well, we've got Mifflins creeping up into the jungle on the left-hand side here, round towards where Jeron is pinned under his tower by Cougar. I'm not sure if he's actually looking for the trap onto the Apollo, or maybe just trying to catch a rotation of defense.
I really like how Retribution is playing this, but a lot of aggression out of the middle lane. Delta Marine is going to fall. Great rotation from Watson. Coming around the backside, no wards on that right side of the map for Eager.
I mean, there was one, but I don't think they expect him to come around that quicker. They got the burst off in time, but Elexum connecting the Spirit Arrow just confirmed that kill completely. And now, Watson swinging all the way over to the... He's just kind of like, I'm sick of sitting in solo lane. We're fighting.
He must have heard me, like, kind of jab at him.
Calling you out.
Yeah, he sits in solo lane too long because he is doing exactly what he needs to be doing right now. Only 1-0-0, but having big impacts in these fights.
And it's a complete pressure cooker situation for Retribution. Obviously, their last 2 games are at the end of the day, and they lost their first game. Both these games are very important to them. Both sets, I should say, very, very important to them. So they have to find wins in both to guarantee to go through.
And if they're able to find a win or two here, it would give them a lot of momentum.
Weaver.
Oh, Mifflin's going to fall in the middle lane. Just way too much, taking way too much free poke from Elexum there. Walked right in front of him.
Retribution looking a lot better than they did in the set against Rival already. Actually giving as good as they get against Eager here.
I was just about to say before Delta Marine fell in middle lane there that I really like how Retribution's playing with confidence. A lot of times, you know, you had a rough first set. Eager just looked great against a team that 2-0'd you, and you're like, man, what are we going to walk into here? But that is not what we're seeing out of Retribution. Willing to trade, willing to fight in the duo lane, the solo lane, the mid lane, wherever. They're looking to force fights.
And I guess it's also down to the fact that LAN experience. Some of these guys have never been to the LAN big stage before. That first set as Delta Marine gets plucked again. And can he get out in time? Sanctuary, Tail Whip comes out. Will he be able to get Disapparate off? Great defense from Jelly, though, with that knockup.
He's still in a lot of trouble, though. There's Lurking in the Waters. Oh, lives with 1 HP. Nice job. Oh, and Cougar's going to take the man fight and left.
And he wins the man fight. And he's going to get out scot-free as well, because you saw, coming at the end there. And how is Cougar full health?
We didn't see it, but he must have just used his minions
Impale.
correctly. Yeah, Impale, Pillar Stun, right. I mean, but if he did get the Stun Impale, Jeron still has his Purification.
That's what I'm looking at, too.
Yeah, it's impossible to say.
Maybe a little bit of a lack of respect of the damage output that he was having, even though their builds are actually identical at this stage of the game, too, between the two of them.
Yeah, within 100 gold of each other. So really fun to watch that left-hand lane. But sometimes you get... when Soul's in the middle lane, right, or even in the Hunter role, because she has that immune, it's like we don't want to go on her, but you could see that they're bursting her before her Disapparate goes off, and it's been very effective.
Well, Kuang just got caught back in base here, and it's up to all, really, with Elexum coming in as well to try and support. Can they actually do anything about this? No is the answer. Eager get it, and once again, Jelly, that pull was just well played.
The ultimate coming in from Jeron, but it's not going to be in time. Yeah, just nice map awareness there by Eager, recognizing Kuang back, and then just immediately pulling that Gold Fury. And Sobek being the only one there with his ultimate down has really no real steal potential.
And when you look at the graphs there that you just saw on the screen, it went down in favor of the Gold Fury for Eager at the start, but then we saw Retribution start to grind that back. And then the objective again, and it's back to where we started.
However, Eager has to be careful because with this sort of composition, like we mentioned, we're getting up close to that 17-minute mark where they're starting to start to get it. But Cougar's going to jump in. Nice mez by Jeron.
This time round, though, Jeron's going to respect that fact. And obviously, his Sanctuary's on cooldown too already. He lost the last trade and he's like, okay, I'll lick my wounds and wait till late game and split push you to death if need be.
The late game, whenever that comes, they're going to have to be careful about Jelly because he does have that Hide of the Urchin completed already. This is fairly early for support to have the Hide of the Urchin complete. So if they can find some nice picks in the middle game here, he's going to be really, really tanky before they realize
And it's really not hard to get the stacks on a Sylvanus with those wisps. They just get assists of anyone that gets a kill while they're being healed by that too.
That's right, especially with the way he's hitting those plucks and peeling for his team with that ultimate. So Jelly's got to try and get those stacks online so he can't get executed by that Kuang quite as easily.
Do you prefer pressure games as a player like this, Aggro, where it's very kill heavy, lots of focus, lots of rotations going on the whole time? Or do you rather would you rather just like farm through the mid game, get to the mid game and go, okay, now we can fight?
That's really cute that you think we have any slow games with Chapo on our team.
That's a good point. You got Chapo.
Yeah, that's
and you got Brochacho.
You think
who plays
Chapo wants
Ares
to farm until mid game?
No.
What the heck is mid game?
Although he had to when he played solo lane.
He did. Well, not really. He went Transcendence and just wanted to fight all the time anyways.
That is also true.
Well, he would be like, yo, I'm coming middle. I'd be like, Chapo, it's 3 minutes. Like, why are you here?
We've got 2 fights going on. Desert Fury from Cougar here because he's really trying to force Jeron back, and Jeron's got to respect this. If an Impale comes through, it could spell disaster for the European, but in mid lane, a big Sylvanus ult I just saw go in. Lord of the Afterlife following it up as well, but Marine's out of the equation, but it hits Jelly, and Jelly's surrounded, and he's going to get ulted by the Kuang, but now the rotation from Dwurst is here, but a great stunning root coming out from Elexum.
A 3-man root from Elexum. A little bit of miscommunication there. The World Weaver actually going out on a Delta Marine when Jelly was way out of position, but it didn't really matter.
And Right Hop is going to go the way of Retribution, so it's only one quick kill again in favor of Retribution onto Jelly. The problem that I can see with this is the Gold Fury's down, so, you know, there's nothing for them to take again. This is what I'm seeing at Retribution. They just can't find anything after getting the pick.
And a lot of that is Eager won't put themselves in that position when there is something to take, right? Eager's like, yo, let's not get into a fight right now. Gold Fury's up. We don't want to take it. But now they're like, all right, you know, even if we lose one here, it's not that big of a deal. But the payoff could be really, really good because their tower siege is excellent with Sylvanus and Soul.
Well, I'm just looking at the levels down the list, and it's relatively even between both these two teams in terms of experience here. The experience gap is actually between the mid laner, if anything else, and the solo laner, but that balances out as well. So it's all pretty much square between these two. Just that gold lead of around 2k in favor of Eager, even though the kills are in favor of Retribution.
Yeah, but the gold lead on everyone on Eager is it's slight, but it's there. Every role has a slight gold lead, and that might not materialize in a full item, but that can translate into ward control, which could translate into buff invades or a pick or something like that. So Retribution needs to make sure that they're keeping their warding up.
I think when we've looked at this so far, we talked about the Sobek versus the Sylvanus, and they've both made an impact in the early game. But we just saw the solo laners trading out there, and I think as this one goes on, we may be looking at them more and more about how they can impact this game.
No doubt. The solo laners are doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're just being solo.
They're doing the usual stuff.
They're doing like solo stuff. But Watson has been the more impactful player on these rotations so far. But Dewurst has just kind of been sitting in lane, got some decent poke onto Watson's tower. And so we're going to look to see what Dewurst can do in these later game team fights.
Well, I'm seeing Retribution rotate around the map a little bit more often here. Even Elexum going over to that duo lane there, looking for a little bit of pressure onto Cougar, who is quite happily feeling himself. But talking about that, once again, Retribution going aggressive.
And here's the Neith ultimate into the right lane. But I think Proxy's actually out of mana. I don't know if he has enough mana for the execute. It won't matter as he will fall, but that's the power. What, like we said earlier, that's the power of Neith middle.
Well, hold that because we've got a rotation from Delta Marine here, and Mifflin's actually going to pick Watson up, who was in too deep. Stellar Burst hit, Purified to try and slow down. Pulse misses, Supernova connects, and now Elexum's there to save the day and get his assassin out. Both solo laners down as Retribution try and disengage.
But look at this pressure on the left-hand side. Cougar's been left to just do whatever he wants to Jeron, and on the right side, like I said, their tower push is just excellent.
He's just not scared of leaping in at all, Cougar. He wants this fight in minions too. Purification, Sanctuary use, Jeron's really low. Realizing he can't win the trade anymore, he backs out and actually comes out on top, but still loses his tower.
He did have to use the Purification as well, so that's definitely a win for Cougar. I like the patience to not have to use a Sanctuary as well. Really trusted himself to dodge that Desert Fury enough so that he wouldn't have to.
Pressure in mid lane onto Elexum. Pull on the mark from Jelly. Forced to Purify and Sanctuary there as well. As round the back comes Or to slow them down. Lurking in the wards, and Elexum going to follow up. They're looking at Jelly again. He's super slow, and Proxy's there to confirm the kill. Come here, tree. I'm a dragon. Mifflin forced to run away too. Will Proxy go in? I'm not so sure.
No, but Elexum really on point with these roots thus far. Been really impressed with his Neith play. And there's we finally saw the ultimate to the solo lane earlier.
Love that little backflip out of Elexum there. He's actually cutting off the angle of the Spirit Arrow to detonate if they try and come around that corner. Gold Fury under threat, however that mess was a little bit early, and the stun missing from Elexum. Gold Fury is still being tanked, and he's being tanked by Jeron, and there's two waiting for Jeron. Jeron needs help, and he gets a little bit of peeling of Mifflin looking to get out. Proxy was zoning away Delta Marine at the back there, but Dewurst doesn't care. He's onto the Hunters now as well. Has to go back to his team.
Dewurst getting a little bit aggressive there, not quite tanky enough quite yet. Actually surprised to see the Runic Shield coming out of him with the double Hunter. It does slow their attack speed, and I guess it gives him some protection against the
Marine
Outlaw.
Still going in with those in-hands and finding plenty onto the enemy team. Gold Fury gets reset again. Eager pulled it for a moment and changed their mind when they saw Retribution was still hanging around. These fights are a little bit closer than I expected, Aggro.
They're really close. They're very back and forth, and I'm kind of surprised that Retribution chose to try and chase out Eager there because the Gold Fury was so low. We're talking like 20%. Jeron wanted to stay on it. You saw him go actually into the Gold Fury pit and try and keep it leashed, but it looks like Eager's going to go for it again.
And they are, and Or's there on the forefront, Jeron alongside him, and now Elexum comes in. Don't forget that Spirit Arrow, that Unravel will slow them down a little bit with those in-hands too, and then force them to reset.
That's a really underrated part of Neith's kit, is that attack speed slow on Unravel. I mean, it can, once it's max rank, which it is now at level 17, it's really, really impactful.
Starting to swing. Well, Eager want to go again. There's a blink from Jelly. Going to get one and pulling Jeron, but Jeron manages to get out. Meanwhile, Mifflin going in, looking at Elexum, whose backflip is down. Mifflin versus 2 Hunters as Proxy takes out Dwurst. Mifflin still looking for the kill, and the kites were good. Meanwhile, though, Proxy's going off. He's getting a double kill.
Proxy's just doing whatever he wants in these team fights. Executes Dwurst, lands down, kills Cougar as well. And that was really awkward because Jelly pulled in Jeron, and then Cougar impaled him away.
Well, it's still a 3v4 here, and Mifflin at the back looking at Jeron again. Meanwhile, chasing in on the other side of things. Watson's there. Great supernova coming out from Delta Marine, but he still gets dropped by Proxy. Jeron joins the 3. Jelly under pressure. Great route from him as Proxy gets a second double kill. Delayed quadra, if anything. D aside for Retribution.
What a surprise coming out from Retribution. I mean, after watching what Eager just did to Rival and watching what Rival did to Retribution, you think, okay, this set is probably going to be in Eager's favor, but Retribution up 12-5 in kills, now going to take the gold lead with that Gold Fury, and it is all about Proxy. They did not respect this Kuang pick.
I mean, they did because they picked Sylvanus, but they showed the Sylvanus counter last time, right? You do it once, you can't really do it again without some sort of comeback.
That's true, and the Sobek does a little bit better into it.
And the Osiris too, right?
No doubt. The Osiris doing a lot of work there, and Mifflin just getting, I don't know, Nemesis is strong, and Mifflin's a really strong player. But that isn't like a Mifflin god to me. You know what I mean?
Does it feel that way?
That's the way it feels to me. He's a lot like Chapo. And okay, this is no secret. I'm not giving away our strats.
Are you sure?
No, but Chapo hates Nemesis. Okay, and I'm like, why? It's like you just do so much. You're just so strong. And we're like a pick team, right? We just like to kill one person over and over again. And Nemesis does that better than any other character.
That's true.
And he says, no, Papo, it's not my type of god. I like to play like Thor and just double tap into. That's literally his comms, by the way.
Actually sounds like him too. When I watch his streams, that sounds identical. Pretty good impression. You've been around him too much, man.
I really have. But so this just doesn't feel like the Mifflin type of god. And he's doing well, but maybe he could have done more on Susano. I'm not sure the Retribution would have done for
something onto Watson now, because Watson's pushed up. Rotation from Mifflin, and Jelly's here too. Watson will battle the world of North America right now. And now he's also got Delta Marine coming. Meanwhile, Retribution, they're just watching.
They should be pushing down this middle tower right now. Let Watson go. He's fine. Let him go.
How is he still going? How is he's out? And Delta Marine gets bursted by Proxy. Meanwhile, mid tower's going to fall now to Elexum as Jeron, well, he's still trying to trade with Cougar. I don't want to see these trades anymore, Jeron.
That was 24 minutes, and Soul just lost over half of her HP from 2 abilities.
That's
what
correct.
do you think's going to happen at 35 minutes?
But that was 24 minutes, and that was an Osiris that juked out 4 players solo as well.
That's just maybe not the right gank selection, right? You do have the Nemesis ult, but do you really want to have to commit that much? You lost a middle tier 1 tower for it.
Now, if Eager are good, used to playing from behind, and at the moment they've only got a 1k deficit here, even though kills say differently on the board here. And the towers, well, they're pretty much even. It's just 2 down. Actually, it's 2 down for Eager in favor of them. If they're like behind at the moment, what are they looking for in this game? Because it looks like I see them starting to play more aggressive all of a sudden.
I'd like to see them group more. You saw that 4-man rotation on the right side, but maybe not the right gank selection like we said, but I'd like to see them group around Jelly. He's level 16.
Oh, Elexum. I don't know what you were doing there, boy. And every time he gets that pull off, they're actually going to commit heavily to Elexum because Dwurst is coming too. Great punching power means Jelly's dot damage will pick up the kill. And now they can siege this tower.
Jelly's just not going to miss a pull off a backflip. He just won't.
That's all. Every time it's free.
Yeah, it's free every time. So Elexum has to be more careful with his positioning in that sort of situation.
It's a 4v5, and Watson off to the left-hand side here. He's got to try and come in and look for the gank opportunity. Lord of the Afterlife is available for him if he so chooses now, but they're just looking to pressure them off the tower. And they're looking at Mifflin, who double dashed already, but Cougar, meanwhile, takes out the big damage dealer in prOxyQQ, but the assassin is answered back in Mifflin dying too.
Oh, Cougar taking a lot of damage from Jeron's autos, and Watson's going to look for him. A great impale stuns him against the wall, and he's body blocked.
He is, and saying that against an Osiris is something you don't get to say too often. Delta Marine cleans him up. Oh, gonna have to charge away, but Dwurst giving chase, and he's got Jelly in his back pocket too. And Jelly won't be scared to throw out the pull if he's got it, but they're just looking to siege up the tower.
Mifflin got a little bit aggressive there, but it worked out for his team as he baits in their front line, allowing them to get the pick onto Proxy, and that's kind of where it all started going wrong.
Well, if we go all the way back, Elexum's backflip, right? He backflips in mid lane, he was out of position, backflips, gets pulled, forced to Purify and Sanctuary, and still gets taken down as well. And because of that, it's a 5v4 siege.
And they're in position to pull off that backflip because of the ward coverage.
Yeah.
Look at all the wards that are red for Eager. Where's a blue ward? Do you see one on the map? Because I don't right now.
Is this a whole EU versus NA thing right now? Blues EU and Reds NA?
I mean, you know.
Can we see Ward's place just out of interest and see if he's right? Damn it, you're right.
No wards for Proxy or Watson. You cannot play a competitive game as a jungler and not ward.
Okay.
Even Choppa wards.
Just to be clear, I don't really care about the EU NA thing at the same time as you don't even make land, so you can shut your mouth.
Look, that's not what I'm talking about.
That's a defense one.
I know. You got a little defensive. I knew I was right, and so, you know, I'm just going to ignore it and push my point.
It's not often I get to cast with a caster who's right, okay? It doesn't happen that often.
Ouch. I feel that for F. and Adonis. Totally right.
I did not say it was those guys. Wow, why are you firing shots at him, aggro? That's rude.
Okay,
why would
try
you do
and turn
that?
it around on me.
That's
I see how
rude,
it is.
aggro.
Yo, chat knows who you were talking about.
No, they don't. You told him who I supposedly was talking about. You made it up.
You're right. Chat never gets mad at Adonis.
But look at this now. Eager looking at the Fire Giant. They're feeling confident all of a sudden here. With Jelly here to sustain them up, they're trying to bait in the Boys of Retribution.
That doesn't look like they're going to take it, though. Although, Elexum in a bad spot again. Mifflin using the ultimate, but Watson's going to go in. Jeron dunks down, but
this
now
is a sporadic fight between the two players. Watson did what he can, but he's got to be very careful here. Has his ultimate available, but he's getting very low. Great ult from Jelly, though, will shut down Watson. But at the backside, prOxyQQ takes out Mifflin. Still, though, Dwurst isolating two as Proxy's going in, cleans up Delta Marine for the double kill. Turns his attention to escaping, going back towards his team. 2-for-1 trade in favor of Retribution.
Jelly's going to be able to heal up the remaining two members of Eager as well as himself. Jeron's going to have to back because he's pretty low. But that fight was so split. There was some by the blue buff, some by the mid harpies, and when you're split like that, Kuang could just kind of do whatever he wants.
So what should you be doing? I mean, should you be like talking over all about who we going on every time? Because normally you hear the same name being called out on comms.
Okay, so before you go into a fight, a lot of times you're like, okay guys, in this next fight, this is what we're looking to do. It's either focus down the Kuang or keep track of the Kuang, but go on this person. And so that was kind of like, maybe they saw Elexum out of position because he has been out of position a little bit.
That's true.
And you know, it's like, hey, keep an eye on Elexum. He's in a bad spot most of the time. But Mifflin was the only one who followed up on that. So, you know, it's
And then they
tough.
got split because Proxy comes in the back from one side. You've got also the crashing in of Jeron and the Apollo as well, just to add to things. You saw the Gold Fury attempt there from Eager for a second, but Proxy showed his face. And when an Kuang at 926 with a Soul Reaver and a Rodder Tahuti online, you're going to worry.
I'm looking at Eager's builds right now, and I see no Mantles of Discord. And that is one of the best items against Kuang because you get into that execute range and he gets stunned right away. So I would have really liked to see, instead of maybe the Executioner, Mifflin might be building into it now, but I would have liked it before the 30-minute mark.
Just Mifflin, or would you like to see Jelly do it as well?
I'd like to see Jelly. Well, it's so expensive. It looks like Jelly might be going for the Lotus Crown,
yeah.
right? Which is a good pickup, but definitely Dwurst. It's just such a good item overall, plus it's so good. Oh, they're going to pull the Fire Giant.
They are going to pull the Fire Giant because they know they're at Gold Fury. Apollo is circling to show off what's going on here. And I think actually Jeron's got to go in on Air Cougar and try and take away the Gold Fury. He doesn't do it, but he does force Cougar out. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, we got a fight still going on.
This is such an awesome game. There's fighting everywhere.
It's madness.
Mifflin backflipping, Elexum backflipping, but he's going to fall to Mifflin. Proxy very low.
Oh, the Purification came through as he ulted, so Proxy goes down to Jelly instead. On top of that, Watson's now surrounded by 4. Big Lord of the Afterlife, but he's still going to drop 2. The Crocodile's going to look and say, no, I'm out of this one. Jeron turns up, and he's turning tail as well.
That fight was on a razor's edge. The perfect Purification saves Mifflin from Proxy, and then he just gets crushed by the Supernova up against the wall. Great relic usage and great PO for their team.
And now control for Eager. They can look at the Fire Giant here. Miflin's come back from base as well. Air Cougar came back after getting poked out by Jeron. Jeron's still trying to trade here up against Dwurst. Got to respect it a little bit more. And the Fire Giant goes the way of Eager, and the tide of the game turns again.
That was so close. Like literally half a second away from that fight going totally to Retribution. If Kuang gets in the air there, they probably wipe Eager. Instead, they almost get wiped. They lose the Fire Giant. They lose their tier 2 tower on the solo side, and now Eager is in a commanding position.
And they need to be as well. They find one game here. They do go through to the finals guaranteed. They're already set up 4 points. So they find one game here. It's guaranteed them 1 more point as well, which means they'll be at 5 and go through to tomorrow. But, well, Retribution can hold on here. They've got Phoenix is still standing aggro.
They do, and they have a lot of damage, right? They've got a lot of damage. This Double Hunter, Apollo almost full build, going to be going into the Deathbringer there. Neith a little bit farther behind, going for that penetration route as opposed to the crit route, which I like in this scenario. I think that Mage Neith is the way to go whenever you're playing with an Kuang. so they can shred that front line, but the problem is that Delta Marine just isn't dying in the back. He only has 3 deaths this far, and he's just putting out way too much damage, and that's what killed Proxy.
Watson, a little bit of pressure here, gonna get surrounded, forced to load of the afterlife. They're looking for the root and the pull, not gonna find it, however. Watson gets away, but with that being down, they'll have to give up tier 2.
Huge ult to burn because now they can heal for free on this Phoenix. The weakening is actually still down from the last fight as well, so this healing is going to be a big thing. Oh, a blink
engage, doesn't find it, however, that he's really looking for. Proxy gets out of the danger zone. Mifflin dropped to half health, but he's got Fire Giant buff and the Wisp to regen. Good pluck from Orr onto the back, onto the boy of the Wisp, but he's not going to care. Overhead kick. Orr's very low and forced back to base as well. And we did see Jerome was split pushing, but he's turned back up, and now he's at half health as well. This is going great for Eager.
And this is exactly what we were talking about, this healing doing so much work for Eager. Watson in a bad spot without that ultimate available, but Eager's going to commit to the Phoenix and confirm it.
They get the Phoenix, but can they get any more off that as well? Orr's going to peel for Jerome there to get back to base. Watson trying to juke out abilities. Meanwhile, Eager still full health and looking at Proxy now.
Proxy's going to fall, try to get the ultimate off, just not in time. Delta Marine kind of stuck by himself, landed on by Jeron. Great route through the wall, just not going to be enough.
Not enough for the kill, and there's a curse coming out too, which will slow down the boys of Retribution some more. They're focusing on the Phoenix for the most part, but however, Cougar still picks up the Sobek off that too. They're standing tall because of these Wisps.
This regen is just far too much. The Fire Giant regen and Jelly's Wisps are just doing so much work. And there's a nice route through the wall again for Elexum, just not finding the kills.
Happy to tank it up for his team here. Meanwhile, they're still trying to bring down the 3rd Phoenix. And you can see that even Retribution don't want to go back to base. They were so close to being in command of this game at so many points of it, aggro.
Delta Marine looking to go in a little bit there. But yeah, like you said, this game was so close. Retribution was right on the cusp. It's just an unfortunate fight.
The Afterlife will hit Jelly, but Jelly responds in spades. Mifflin takes out Jeron, and the dot damage on Watson is good enough for Mifflin to get himself a double kill on the Nemesis. The final Phoenix falls, and Eager, well, they've got minions coming in from the left. They've got minions coming in from the middle, and I'm stuck here with you, aggro.
Well, you know, you can't win them all, Hindu. I'm stuck here with you.
You can't say it again. Come on. Come on.
It was more like you're not stuck in here with me. I'm whatever it is.
Whatever. What a great performance. What a great performance from Eager, right? These guys came out in spades. It was a good performance from them overall, although it went back and forth.
It really did. That was a really, really close game, and that's the veteran leadership of Eager that we were talking about, the LAN experience. Just falling far behind. They get decided. They give up a Gold Fury. It's looking like Retribution. It has everything going in their favor. Their Kuang is fed, but Eager plays it slow. He has a fight that really could have gone either way, but it ends up going in Eager's favor, and then they capitalize off that for the game.
Now Retribution here, they've lost that first game, which means the most they can get now is 4 points if they do split with Eager here and beat Most Wanted later on.
Correct.
A lot of pressure on this team to come back into it, but after that game, they can do that.
They can. If they win 4 in a row, they can secure their spot in the final, right? It would be 1 against Eager here, 2 against Most Wanted in the next set, and then they'd have the tiebreaker game against Rival, where they'd get to redeem themselves and play for the final spot.
We'll see how that all plays out overall, but first of all, let's just go into this set versus Eager. What do you think they need to do differently going into the next game against Eager?
Retribution, that is?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. They were really, really close that game, and they played that very well. I'd like to see, I don't know if they're going to be able to get that Ao Kuang again. I don't know if they're going to have first or second pick. They've got to play around the Ao Kuang, though. And I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more from Elexum. He had a couple nice ults and had a couple nice routes. But outside of that, he kind of baited his team into bad fights once or twice. Yeah, just his positioning overall was a little bit off, but it's really not by that much. It's not a glaring issue. It's just like a, you know, maybe if you aren't here, right, exactly. If you aren't here at this time, maybe this doesn't happen. But that's always, it's always got to be someone, right?
It's always got to be someone. You've got to look at the whole team, and most of the time you've got to look back and just be like, all right, overall you've got to hold your hands up if things go wrong, I guess.
Absolutely, and like I said, he played a fine game most of the time. Had a triple root in middle, ultimate at the right time, but that being said, I would have liked to see him ultimate that right side a little bit more. I know DeWurst has that like Ravana immune, but he might be able to time it for that World Weaver, but then that means it isn't up for the Ao Kuang execute, something like that. I feel like Proxy, even though he was really far ahead anyways, could have gotten more ahead off of DeWurst.
So if we expect the Ao Kuang ban this game, what's going to get through, do you expect?
If the Ao Kuang gets banned, that would probably mean that either Guan Yu or Fafnir would get through, one of those two, or possibly Susano. I know Proxy has played a little bit of Susano. That is one of Mifflin's favorite gods, talking about like a Mifflin god.
Yeah.
Susano really personifies that. Another thing I'd like to see Retribution do is, you saw how much prOxyQQ wanted to take those fights in the left lane, right? They got him, they punished him for it once, but he was really up against Duran's tower most of that game.
That's true.
That World Weaver's got to be used on that left side then. Proxy's got to make that rotation on that left side then. Holding Neith ultimate doesn't do a whole lot for you.
Gotcha.
You might as well just throw it out willy-nilly, and even right here, like try and peel for your Hunter.
Kuga had a fantastic game on this. This is just a bully. We didn't catch on camera. That was the key to how he got beat.
That was hot.
The pillar. That was a hot pillar.
That was hot. Did you see that pillar that I think he had against Transonics, or someone had against Transonics when he was Hebo ulting?
And he just blocked it.
Yeah, just face stuffed him. That was
I've
dope.
seen that. This was later on in the game. Before the fire jump, this resulted in a fire jump, this engagement here. His position's always on point, Kuga, for the most part. I mean, except in the lane when he's overly aggressive, but you know.
When he gets into these team fights, he's very cognizant of that positioning there. Staying away from Delta Marine a little bit better than he did in that set against Most Wanted. You don't want to get... You don't want to have both your DPS zoned by the same player, and for the most part, that didn't happen this game.
I don't know who...